Amelia Rowan had always imagined her wedding day as a moment of pure joy, a gentle culmination of her dreams, soft sunlight spilling across white curtains, the scent of roses drifting through the air, and her heart beating in a quiet rhythm that matched the happiness she believed she had earned. She had envisioned herself in a delicate lace gown, standing at the altar, feeling Daniel's hands warm and steady around hers, his gaze tender, reassuring, unshakably hers. Every detail had been planned meticulously. The soft music playing as she entered, the subtle scent of jasmine mixed with lilies, the careful arrangement of candles that would bathe the room in golden light. Yet, as the first rays of the morning sun filtered into her bedroom, she felt a heaviness settle over her chest, a premonition she could neither name nor ignore. The morning moved in a whirlwind. Bridesmaids flitted about, fussing over her hair, adjusting pins and veils with frantic energy. The seamstress tweaked the folds of her gown, whispering gentle reassurances that sounded hollow in Amelia's ears. The photographer hovered silently, capturing smiles she struggled to feel. Each movement, each word, each smile felt unreal, like she were performing in a play where the script had suddenly turned sinister. Her hands shook as she held the delicate lace, as though the fabric itself had absorbed her rising anxiety. Then her phone buzzed. One message. Unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. A video file. Her fingers trembled. The screen flickered to life. The room she saw was unfamiliar, dimly lit, shadows curling along the walls like dark fingers. And there, at a desk cluttered with papers and devices, was Daniel, calm, precise, in that unnervingly familiar way that had once comforted her, now chilling. He spoke softly into the camera, each word deliberate, measured. Amelia's blood ran cold when she heard her name spoken in a context that twisted her stomach into knots. She scrolled through the following files. More photos, more documents, more videos. Women she did not know, signatures she had never signed, places she had never visited. Her hands shook, and she dropped the phone onto her lap. Her chest tightened as though an invisible hand had gripped her heart. The man she had promised to spend her life with, the man she had trusted completely, was a stranger hidden beneath a mask she had never truly seen. A final message appeared on the screen. If you marry him, you will regret it. Panic surged through her veins. The church bells rang faintly in the distance, reminding her that the ceremony would begin soon. Every instinct screamed at her to flee. Every rational thought collided with the weight of months of planning, of love, of hope. But deep within, Amelia knew she could not stay. She could not pretend. She could not step into the church and into a life built on lies. Without a second thought, she bolted, the train of her gown tangling around her legs, the veil whipping in the wind. She ran through the streets, the morning sun too bright, too honest, revealing her panic. She waved down the first taxi she could find. Drive. Anywhere. She whispered, her voice cracking. Daniel's figure appeared at the church doors, calm, unflinching, watching as she vanished from sight. Not shouting, not chasing, simply observing, like a predator studying its prey. A shiver ran down Amelia's spine. Did he know? Could he track her so easily? She had no answers, only the desperate certainty that she had to run. For 2 days, she lived like a shadow, constantly moving, hiding in abandoned buildings, small motels, empty warehouses, changing her appearance, her hair, even her phone. Every footstep behind her sent her heart racing. Every shadow on the wall seemed to breathe. Yet she could not run forever. Running was temporary. She needed strategy. She needed knowledge. Late one night, in a deserted library, she dug through old articles, news clippings, and online archives. That was when she found it. The cabin fire. The woman who had died, the young man who survived Daniel. Her stomach twisted with a mixture of horror and resolve. The men she loved, or thought she loved, had a past stitched with danger, secrets, and possibly murder. A new determination took hold. Amelia realized that survival required more than fear. She needed to hide, to mislead, to fight not with violence, but with strategy, with knowledge. Amelia Rowan ran through the twisting alleys, each step a frantic beat in her heart, her breath ragged from the fear that had become her constant companion. The city's fog curled around her like a cloak, hiding her but also suffocating her. Every shadow seemed alive, every movement hinting at the presence of Daniel or one of his mysterious associates. She ducked into a narrow side street, pressed herself against a cold brick wall, and pressed her palms to the rough surface, trying to steady the frantic beating of her heart. Her mind raced, replaying every moment of the past 2 days. Every decision, every shortcut, every abandoned alley had brought her here. But she knew the danger was far from over. Daniel was patient. He was relentless. And he knew her patterns, how she thought, how she acted, how she hid. She took a trembling breath, scanning the foggy street. No one. For now, she had a moment of fragile peace. She moved quickly, silent as a shadow, keeping to the edges of the alleys, slipping behind dumpsters and piles of old crates. She ducked into an abandoned warehouse, the scent of mildew and decay filling her lungs. The darkness was comforting, it made her invisible. She pressed herself against a pillar, trying to control her breathing, to stop the adrenaline from shaking her hands. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated, then pulled it out. An unknown number. The message was simple. You can run, but you cannot hide. Fear surged, sharp and cold, but alongside it, determination. She knew she could not run blindly. She needed a plan. She needed leverage. She spent the night in the warehouse, pacing, memorizing exits, noting the weak points in her surroundings, and planning every movement for the coming hours. Her body ached from the constant motion, but her mind had never been sharper. Every instinct, every memory of Daniel's calculated calm now fueled her strategy. By dawn, she had moved again, slipping into the outskirts of the city. She changed her appearance at a small thrift store, cutting her hair, swapping clothes, covering herself with a scarf. She left cash at the abandoned warehouse and erased all traces of her previous location. Every step was calculated, every decision mattered. The days that followed were a careful dance. Amelia traveled through small towns, blending into crowds, using public transportation at odd hours. Always watching, always listening. She found temporary work at cafes, laundromats, even helping at local markets, anything that allowed her to stay under the radar. She became a ghost, a woman without a past, moving silently, observing everything, trusting no one. At night, when she allowed herself to rest, her dreams were haunted by Daniel's calm, unyielding presence. His eyes followed her through every nightmare, his voice echoing in her ears. But each morning, she reminded herself, she had survived. She had already escaped the worst of him. And each day, she became stronger, more prepared, more clever. One evening, after weeks of careful movement, Amelia arrived at a coastal town where the cliffs met the restless sea. She rented a small room above a cafe, paying cash, leaving no records. Here, she would pause, take stock, and plan her final move. She changed her name, becoming Elise Whitmore, a new identity for a new life. The town's salty air filled her lungs, a strange comfort after the suffocating fear of the city. Elise spent weeks learning the town, observing the rhythms of life, blending in. She walked along the cliffs each morning, letting the wind whip her hair and clear her mind. Every wave that crashed against the rocks seemed to wash away a piece of the past. Yet she remained vigilant. She knew Daniel would not give up. He was patient, and patience was his weapon. Then one evening, a letter slipped under her door. No address, only 3 words. You won. Always. Her pulse surged not with fear, but with triumph. Daniel's message carried a weight of acknowledgement. For the first time, she realized he respected her resilience, even if it was begrudgingly. It was a victory not just over him, but over every fear, every doubt, every moment in which she had questioned her own strength. Elise walked along the cliffs that night, the wind tugging at her hair, the moon casting silver streaks across the ocean. She allowed herself to remember everything. The calm, meticulous man she had once loved allies the fear the desperate escape the night spent hiding. The adrenaline-fueled days of planning the nights by the sea, plotting her freedom. Each memory was a thread, woven into the tapestry of her new life, a life forged from fire, fear, and fierce determination. She thought of the cabin, now ashes, consumed by fire, symbolic of the past she had destroyed to survive. She thought of the city, the streets she had run through, the alleys, the motels, the dark corners where she had crouched, listening for threats. She had survived every test, every shadow, every moment of terror. She had transformed from Amelia Rowan, a woman who almost surrendered to her fears, into Elise Whitmore, a woman who had claimed her life with her own hands. The coastal town became Elise's sanctuary, a fragile bubble of safety where she could breathe, think, and plan. Yet she knew deep down that her peace could not last forever. Daniel was patient, calculated, and unyielding. He had resources, contacts, knowledge of her habits. He could appear anywhere, at any time. And yet, for the first time, Elise felt something she had never felt before in his presence: control. She was no longer running blindly, she was moving strategically, aware of every step, every shadow, every potential threat. Weeks passed. Elise observed Daniel's patterns from afar, using scraps of information she had gathered before disappearing. She learned his associates' habits, traced his digital footprints, and slowly pieced together his movements. Each discovery gave her confidence. She was no longer a prey, she was a predator of her own destiny, shaping the battlefield she could not avoid. Then one evening, a letter slipped under her door. No address, only 3 words. You won. Always. Her pulse surged not with fear, but with triumph. Daniel's message carried a weight of acknowledgement. For the first time, she realized he respected her resilience, even if it was begrudgingly. It was a victory not just over him, but over every fear, every doubt, every moment in which she had questioned her own strength. Elise stood at the edge of the cliff, letting the ocean spray wash over her, a tangible reminder of life's unpredictable beauty. She felt the warmth of freedom settle over her like a cloak. She was alive. She was powerful. She was free. And in that freedom, she found not just relief, but herself. Her phone buzzed an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled, a knowing smile that no fear could touch. She did not check it. She had already won. She did not need to. The past could not reach her here, could not claim her again. She had chosen herself. She had survived. And that choice was absolute. As the sun rose, casting a golden path across the water, Elise Whitmore walked along the cliffs. Each step a declaration of her new life, each breath a triumph over the darkness she had endured. Behind her lay fear, deception, and shadows. Ahead of her lay freedom, power, and endless possibilities. She was no longer the bride who almost lost everything. She was the woman who had reclaimed her destiny, forged from fire and courage. And nothing, not even Daniel, could take that from her. And in that victory, she smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. The horizon stretched endlessly before her, a promise of life fully lived. She had survived. She had chosen herself. She had found freedom.